Hi, welcome to Shrinks on Tap. I am Dr. Eleni Boussalis, and this week's episode is extra special. Lauren and I will be handing over the mic to two incredible guest hosts, Dr. Debbie Grodzicki and Amy Begnal, who was recently seen on TLC's Bailing Out Loud. They're both therapists and clinicians in our practice here in Alexandria, Virginia. Amy and Debbie are not only amazing clinicians, but they are also deeply insightful, they're authentic, and they have very candid and heart-to-heart conversations. So we're excited to have you sit with them, learn from them, and have this episode with these two amazing co-hosts. So sit back, pour yourself a drink, and welcome to Shrinks on Tap.
Listeners, welcome back to another episode. Sitting here with one of my favorites, Debbie, who will introduce herself in a moment. My name is Amy Begnal. I am a therapist here at Delray Psych and Wellness and the clinical director of Anacortes Psych and Wellness, our West Coast practice.
Oh, Amy. My name is Debbie. I am a therapist here at Delray Psych and Wellness as well, and I specialize in couples counseling. And Amy here is actually my supervisor. And we've been working together for several years, and she's been the person I look up to. We explore a lot of questions together, and so we thought, why not bring some of those questions to the space?
Yeah, and you have such excellent questions. I always love chatting with you. So before we dive into the questions, what are we sipping on today?
Ooh, well, we're sipping on some tea, some Earl Grey tea. It's just so warm and cozy on this cool and crisp fall day that we just thought, why not?
Yeah, why not invite our listeners to something cozy as well? So we hope that you are settling in, having a snack, having something to just, bring you some soothing energy as we chit-chat today. Join us at the table and let's get started.
Yeah. So one of the questions that I always bring up to Amy, because it's something that I experience in my sessions, is that, couples are coming to us with a lot of fight in them. They just want to keep this going and they want to keep trying. And so I think to myself, why? Why do people seek relationships? Why does it matter so much to us to have relationships? And second to that, why is it just so hard? And so Amy and I talk a lot about this question, so we thought we'd bring it to you today to explore it together.
Yeah, such great questions. You always had the best. So one of the things that you and I talk a lot about is the science behind all of what we do. And if we look at the science behind being a human being, we notice a lot of things. First of all, there's attachment theory. And attachment theory is when we look at how caregivers impact us as we're growing, as we are new to the world. And we're going to dive into a little bit of the nature versus nurture question. Attachment talks about nurture. And we know that we are wired for survival, right? Without relationships, what would happen? What would happen to us?
Yeah. What would happen to us?
Yeah. Well, let's think about our couples that we see. They're wanting partnership. Our singles are looking for partnership. And we often remind them that you're not the only ones and that we have this biological drive to be in connection with others.
Yeah.
A lot of that comes into play with love relationships because of oxytocin.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that bond, right? Do you want to talk about that, how it interplays with our couples, what we're seeing?
Yeah, when you're coming in and you feel that connection, you're already feeling that energy, right? That energy, that desire to continue to do things, to explore things together. Some people really find joy in experiences when they are sharing it with another. So that's kind of that oxytocin, that excitement that comes in when you're in a relationship, and people really seek that.
Right.
Also, people find this need, and it's critical as beings, to be understood, to be heard, to feel like you matter. Mm-hmm. And that also happens in connection.
Yeah.
And so that's also something that kind of pushes us to want to find and connect with people.
Exactly. And what you're talking about too is that reciprocity. Reciprocity feels so good because when we're not receiving that, that's when couples come to us because they're not receiving something that they're needing from the relationship. So if we look back at attachment theory, in childhood, obviously we want to be able to respond to our caregivers and feel like they're answering the question that the researcher, Dr. Sue Johnson, asks, are you there for me? Such an important question. And the ARE is actually, are you emotionally accessible to me when I need you? Are you emotionally responsive as well? And are you emotionally engaged and empathetic? And that's what we support couples with because it's not just in childhood and infancy that we're dependent on another. We are, fortunately or unfortunately, wired to connect. And so that also plays out into adulthood. So when our couples come to us, we're normalizing, hey, there is a biological need to connect to your partner. It goes beyond just, the surface level things that they're arguing about, and we're there to support them. So,
That said, while relationships matter and really important, it's okay. And there's a lot of value in being alone. That's something that we want to welcome, cherish, and enable in a lot of ways for individuals to not feel that what we call codependency, right? This need to always be connected to another person so that you feel valued. Right. Everything comes from within. And we also need to honor that individuality, and we do alongside with the relationship and the partnership, which is also a critical need as a human being.
You're completely right. Yeah, one of the things that we don't like to hear is this was my other half. No. You are two whole beings coming together to just cohabitate and live life. And so I love what you're talking about. You're a full, complete human being, even without being in relationship.
Right. And we always say you've got to love yourself first.
Exactly.
You got to love your first self. So Amy, if you were to sum up kind of what you just said, 3 key points of why do relationships matter? How would you sum it up?
I would say that biologically, we are dependent on other people, our caregivers, and that biological need, we have oxytocin, right? That our brain is bathed in this hormone that is there for bonding, and that does follow us into adulthood. It's not just something that we are dependent on as children. That oxytocin really forms some early neural pathways where we desire that connection with caregivers, whether or not it was a positive connection in childhood or we have those desired secure relationships in childhood. We are still desiring a secure relationship. So the 3 points, 1, we're just born with it. We are wired for connection. 2, that wiring is even stronger because we have this oxytocin hormone that bathes our brains, and that then follows us into adulthood, that desire to connect and have that secure answer. Yes, you are there for me.
So the question then is, we're born with it. We should be really good at it, right? It's come on. It's something that we've practiced, if you will, our entire life as adults, right? Now as we're adults. So why is it so hard? Are we bad at it?
Some of us are bad at it. Yeah. But that is not to say that you cannot become good at it. And that's where we come in and other amazing therapists come in. And that's where the research comes in. So there's a full body of evidence supporting these people to get better at relationships because we know that they're so important. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, but also thinking about the nature versus nurture, right? We have nurturers, our caregivers, and that does influence our attachment style, whether we are securely attached, whether we're avoidant, anxious, or a mix of both. And nobody is fully 100% secure. I often talk about it on a spectrum, that sometimes we're kind of oscillating between, one or the other. But we do often think about it as a spectrum to support our clients. So we have that nurture piece, but we also have the nature piece. The nature piece is that oxytocin, but it also goes back to our temperament. When we are born we are handed a temperament and it influences our mood, our sensitivities, if we're more sensitive or more resilient, if we're more extroverted or introverted. So I do think that we're so complex as human beings already. And then we're thrown into relationships immediately, right? And that relationship with a caregiver, and then we go into relationships with friends and peers and colleagues, and finally a romantic partner. Whew. So if we think about, if we individually, I mean, we're born with a temperament, right?
What is temperament?
Well, it's a biologically based, it's really it's our personality. Temperament's our personality. That's the way that I look at it. We often talk about, the introvert, extrovert, and in therapy, also that resiliency and high sensitivity. So we're born that way. And then our environment really shapes that even further.
Right.
Attachment, we like to say that it's not set in stone and that we can learn to trust. We can learn to become more secure. So that is promising. I have a lot of thoughts about personality, but if we get back to the question of two individuals, like why is it so hard to be in a romantic relationship? Let's think about that. Two people with different temperaments, different attachment styles, and oftentimes in therapy, because we see individuals and couples. So we're assessing on the individual level how that person has adapted to stressors.
Yeah.
And so we're bringing those adaptations to relationships too. It can be really hard.
Yeah. And then as I'm hearing you talk, I'm thinking, I don't know if it's that we're bad at it. It's that it's something that you have to adjust, because you always have to align and compromise and work with it. And that alone is a challenge for us, but it's not something that we're bad at. In fact, we're probably really good at it. Because if we were bad at it, we wouldn't be able to commit. Right? We wouldn't be able to stay together for so long, given all those complexities. Right? Because you talk about temperament, you talk about attachment, and then there's also values, right? Interests, right? Kind of how do you show up? How do you want to be? What do you want to do? What do you believe in? All these things have to kind of come together as a perfect storm. Right. And that's where we're even bringing in culture. Not culture on a broad perspective, but even a culture of a family. We're bringing that in. So there's a lot to integrate into this relationship. And some people find it relatively easy. They're really curious about their partner and eager, and some find it a little bit harder to integrate. Yeah.
And again, that's where our work comes in. One of the things that we see are people that are doing it really well.
Yes, we do. We see people that are doing it really well. And I think one of the reasons they are doing it so well is that they're able to identify what is some of the challenges. What are the challenges that they're experiencing? They're able almost to diagnose that and work around it, right? If people recognize, oh, we have different attachment styles, and they talk through it, okay, what's mine, what's yours, and how can we adjust? That's one way they can kind of better and strengthen their relationship. So we believe one of the biggest things, and I follow this model kind of in my work, is the model of you start with awareness, then you move towards will, and then you lead into action. And this model, I believe, kind of has to happen this way, because you can't expect someone just to go right into action. Even when they're aware of what's happening and then have the will to make the change and then make that change. Right? Couples that really are aware of where their pain points are and where the strengths are can then really explore together, build that will, and then act upon it together. And that's where a lot of couples flourish. And that's how we see that progress over time. And that's our job too, to help them identify those pieces.
Right. I love where you're talking about this framework. And this is where you're so brilliant. You're able to just come up with these things that are so helpful for your couples. So if you think about that awareness, people are aware that there is a problem.
Yes.
Right. And that's when they start searching for a couples therapist or contemplate, maybe reading some couples books or something and diving in to what do we do about this problem? But they're not always aware of the problem.
Yes.
And so they come in already. Your second point was like the willingness, the will to change. So there's a willingness to come in, which is amazing and incredibly vulnerable. And we applaud every individual and couple client that comes in. It's incredibly vulnerable. But then when you are with them and you have diagnosed what the issues are, because again, they come in with this broad issue, we're not getting along, help us with our relationship, we have relationship problems. You're able to identify the specific issues. How do you increase their will to change?
I do that through hope. And so one of the things that we do, both Amy and I do, is it's more around the solution-focused type of therapeutic approach, but we really bring in the miracle question. So one of the miracle question is asking couples, if you woke up tomorrow and things were perfect or your problems were solved, how would your relationship look? And when couples start to envision that dream of this newfound relationship, and they're like, oh my gosh, we would do this, we would act like this, we would do this would not be the case, we wouldn't fight, blah, 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 we'd have more sex. As these come up, they start to bring the sense of hope and energy and excitement. That hope and energy, excitement breeds the will. That's how we do it. And so then once we get that brewing, then we can come back and then we can start to really work on it because they have that energy and that excitement ready to go.
Yeah, we see it. And just as you're talking, I don't know how our listeners are feeling as they hear us talk about it, if they're also excited, but I get so excited about this work.
Yeah.
I have chills when I hear you talk about the hope and that miracle question and how people respond. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm hopeful they have to feel the same way. They get excited as well. We see them leaving. I mean, not always. Let's be real. Therapy is really hard. So people don't always leave feeling better than they came in. But man, it's such a delight to share that moment with them where you see the burden lift and they have that hope.
Yes.
And you're saying that supports them to have the will to continue coming and working on it. And then the last tenet, remind me of the last tenet
for
your framework.
Oh, action.
Action.
Yes. Yeah. Awareness, will, and action. This is actually a framework in my previous world, my previous life and job. I did a lot of advocacy work. And so there's around advocacy, that's how we build advocacy. That's how we try to kind of create power among people. We start with the awareness, tell them people what's happening in society, and then that breeds that will. And then once we get that will and the people power, that's when the action happens. So I actually was able to translate that belief, that work into the therapeutic setting.
That's amazing because you, in turn, are advocating for the client as well, for each individual member of the couple.
Yeah.
And the couple itself.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's amazing too, because when we talk about hope, as an individual, I see the couples as individuals come in and they start to build that hope through visioning, through being there, just through experience. But a lot of what brings hope to an individual is seeing their partner start to believe, start to wake up, start to feel that hope and say, like, this is possible. I want you again. Seeing that also breathes a lot of hope. So that's a really powerful piece that I love when we're dealing with couples, kind of seeing them engage and interact with one another. And I love observing and watching that as a therapist.
Yeah, it's such an honor for today to be able to witness that with them.
Yes.
It's so, so good.
Yes.
And that is one of those green flags that we'll talk about in a later episode. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
That hope instills a lot of willingness in the partner whenever they start seeing that their partner is starting to turn towards them versus away, which we can discuss more later as well.
Yeah. So, Amy, in this episode, we've talked about, why do relationships matter? Why do we fight so hard? Why do we want them or need them? And also, why are they so hard? So if we were to think of our top 3 takeaway for our listeners on these questions, what would they be?
Well, I'll go first.
Okay.
Okay. And we might have similar answers to this, but number 1, it's not just you.
Yeah.
Right? That there's a lot of things that are making up the person that you are and then the person that you've chosen to be in relationship with. And there is sometimes difficulty integrating that. So you're not alone, right? 2, of course, we are drawn to one another. We're wired for that connection. And that's why it can be so hard to also make a decision to stay or go, right? So I think that that is another really big piece. And the third piece is that our career tracks, we are so passionate about this work. And that passion has provided other researchers with, another career of researching what actually works. And we're pulling from that research. I mean, we have this collective knowledge that we are pulling from. We are so fortunate. And then we get to provide that to our clients. Therapy works. Couples therapy works. If you come in and you have that good relationship with us and we earn your trust is earned, right? Then you can change.
Yeah.
So 1, not just you. 2, it's hard. And 3, change is possible.
I'm going to add a 4. Your relationship is not doomed. So a lot of people are coming in, we're done. It's over. We can't make it. We've done everything. No, you haven't. You haven't. There's so much more to explore, to understand, to learn. And you can come back from this. That is something that we as therapists want to. And once you've done that work and you realize it's just not the right fit, then you find a way to kind of journey away. But it's not doomed yet.
Right. I love that. Yeah. What other takeaways do you have? You added a 4th, which was wonderful. Yeah. I love that reminder that you're not doomed.
Yeah. Another takeaway, and I brought it up earlier in the session, is that don't lose yourself in the relationship, right? If you're trying and fighting and wanting and needing, come back to you. You are the most important person. And remind yourself of that. And we as therapists always remind you, even when we do the couples work, we always honor the individual. And so make sure you come back to you and take care of yourself first.
Right. Yeah, I love that. So great talking about this with you. I'm so fortunate.
Yes. So next time we're going to talk about, we have insider knowledge, right? So we know we get a sense through a lot of experience, what couples make it, what couples don't make it, what are the green flags, what are the red flags. So we want to have that conversation with you all next time. So join us next time for that conversation.
It's so exciting.